So how did one man, a doctor's son from a pretty small town, end up basically writing the rulebook for Western thought? Today, we're going to chart the life and legacy of Aristotle, the guy who tried to catalog and understand, well, the entire world.
Okay, let's just dive right in. We hear his name all the time, right? But what's the actual story behind this intellectual giant? How did his ideas come to shape pretty much everything? Logic, science, ethics, for over 2,000 years? You see, Aristotle wasn't just a thinker in one little area. He was like a whole universe of thought unto himself. He was breaking new ground in biology and politics, in metaphysics, all of it driven by this deep, profound belief in observation and in our human ability to understand the world around us. But his incredible story, it doesn't begin in the grand halls of Athens. Nope, it starts in a small provincial town on the Aegean coast, a place that would plant the seeds for his relentless curiosity. Now, this is really interesting. His father's job, being the son of a doctor, was absolutely crucial. Think about it. From his earliest days, Aristotle was surrounded by a world of empirical observation and scientific questioning. It totally shaped his entire approach to knowledge. So after his father died, this young prodigy, already filled with questions about the natural world, he sets off on a journey, and this trip would change not only his life but our world forever. He was headed for the absolute epicenter of thought, Athens. And in Athens, of course, Aristotle finds his way to the most prestigious school of its time, a place led by the legendary philosopher who is already shaping the minds of a whole generation, Plato. For 2 full decades. For 20 years, Aristotle studied at Plato's academy. And he wasn't just any student, he soaked up generations of knowledge and pretty quickly became its brightest star. He was impressing absolutely everyone with his sharp mind. In fact, Plato himself gave him that nickname, the Reader. I mean, what a compliment, right? It was a testament to his incredible intellect. But this star student, he wasn't going to stay in his master's shadow. He was already starting to forge his own very distinct intellectual path. And this right here, this illustrates the philosophical split that would literally change the world. For Plato, truth was in this perfect abstract realm of forms, and our world was just a shadow of that. But Aristotle, the doctor's son, he completely flipped that idea on its head. He argued that reality is right here, in the tangible world we can see and touch and study. So why is this so revolutionary? It basically gave humanity permission to find truth right here on Earth. It meant that studying a fish or a plant or a political system wasn't some distraction. It was the path to knowledge. This shift from abstract ideals to empirical observation is the bedrock on which all of modern science was eventually built. It's a huge deal. So, after Plato died in 348 BC, Aristotle left Athens. But this wasn't an end. It was a brand new beginning. It kicked off his journey into the wider world, a time of travel, of groundbreaking research, and a new, really powerful purpose. You can see from this timeline of his journey, this is a man who's no longer just a student. He's a traveling scholar, and he's forging his own legacy. He's out there exploring, researching, and building his own philosophical foundations, one city at a time. Over on the coast of Asia Minor, his fascination with the natural world just exploded. Surrounded by all this diverse marine life, he did pioneering biological and zoological research. He was laying the groundwork for scientific methodology itself. This is where his ideas about looking at the world directly were really put into practice. And then came an offer that would echo through history. King Philip II of Macedonia invited him to be the personal tutor to his son. So for the next several years, Aristotle would be shaping the mind of the boy who would become Alexander the Great. Okay, let's move ahead to his triumphant return. In 335 BC, Aristotle came back to Athens. But this time, he wasn't coming back as Plato's student. He returned as a master in his own right, ready to build his very own center of learning. He founded the Lyceum, and his students, they became known as the Peripatetics, a name that came from their habit of walking around the gardens while they were in these deep philosophical discussions. It's such a powerful symbol for his whole philosophy, active, dynamic, and totally engaged with the world. And during this period at the Lyceum, he produced a just staggering amount of work. And these weren't just books, they were the pillars of Western philosophy and science, covering everything from the nature of virtue and happiness to the study of government and the fundamental nature of reality itself. You know, the crucial point for Aristotle, and you see this in all his work, is this.
It wasn't just about thinking great thoughts. True excellence, real happiness, that came from living a life of consistent virtue and purpose. It came from making excellence a daily habit. But his golden age in Athens, well, it would be cut short by the political turmoil that was sweeping through the Greek world, which leads us to the final and pretty dramatic chapter of his life. So after his famous former student Alexander the Great died, this wave of anti-Macedonian feeling just erupted in Athens. And because of his close ties to the throne, Aristotle's position became really dangerous. He had to flee the city for the last time, and he ended up dying just a year later in 322 BC.
But his death was not the end, not even close. This slide just brilliantly illustrates his lasting impact. That revolutionary idea that knowledge is found in the observable world, it became a catalyst. His work was picked up by Thomas Aquinas in the Middle Ages, it inspired Enlightenment thinkers, and his systematic approach to classification and logic became the absolute cornerstone of modern science itself.
Ultimately, this is the gift Aristotle gave us. He provided a framework for how to think, how to analyze, and how to understand our world. His legacy is woven right into the very fabric of logic, ethics, and scientific inquiry. Which leaves us with this question. Beyond all the science and the logic, his life's work was really a timeless quest for knowledge and for a better, more virtuous way to live. So how can that ancient search still guide us right now, today?